Hey everyone, it's Shakira, aka the Dope Doula, and I am back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about putting together your birth plan and some of the components that can go into your birth plan or your birth preferences worksheet. Before we get into the granular details, I want to just let you know that a birth plan or birth preferences worksheet is essentially you expressing what your ideal scenario will look like when you are going through labor and delivery. Your birth plan can be as detail oriented or as high level as you want it to be. And it essentially is comprised of three overall structures. One, your big vision for what you want in your birthing experience. Two, what you actually want to happen in terms of medical intervention or lack of medical intervention, and also support from your birthing team through labor and delivery. And then three, what is your postpartum experience going to look like? Now, everybody has a different way of sort of articulating that birth plan, but I would definitely say if you are going to be doing a birth plan, that you want to at least start with your big picture vision. And by that, I mean, it could be, for my birth, I would like to have an unmedicated, limitedly assisted birth with my doula or midwife or husband or wife or mother or godmother or sister or best friend by my side. You're just making that very clear. And you can specify, I want it to be an unmedicated vaginal birth. I would like to have a C-section. I would like to, for people who've had multiple children, I would like an unmedicated vaginal birth after cesarean if you've had to have a cesarean from a previous pregnancy and birth. So you're just casting that big picture vision. And then you're gonna wanna go into some of the details around what you want to happen during labor and delivery. And so for those of you who may be pregnant for the first time, if you're going into labor, you can generally expect that your labor is gonna last a bit longer. That can be a few hours to, for some people, a few days. If you've had multiple children, which we like to call multips, your labor can be super short. And so your birth plan is gonna look different depending on the context of where you are in terms of your birth experience, and also where you are in your own sort of personal ethics with what you want that experience to look like. Again, for some people, having an unmedicated vaginal birth is super important. Some people are like, induce me, cesarean me, give me the works. Totally up to you. And there's no judgment in any way that you go, as long as you're going in informed. So you're talking about what you want labor and delivery to look like. You want to labor at home with the support of your doula until you reach 8 centimeters. And then go into your birthing center. If you're having a home birth, you can specify that, what you want. You can put anything in there like, I want candles and I want this music to be playing. I want to be on a free-flowing IV. I don't want any pain medication, or I do, and there's the opportunity to list the types of interventions that you would like. As a doula, our framework in the birth work community is that we want to allow the body to do what it is organically intelligent to do. And so we use the expectant management framework. We're just letting the body do what it knows how to do naturally, assuming that it's been a very healthy pregnancy and that you're laboring normal and there doesn't need to be any medical intervention. We're going to let the body do what it does, and you can specify that. If there does need to be medical intervention for some reason, you can specify in your birth plan that I would like to make sure that I have given fully informed consent before anything is done, which means that because you specify that in your birth plan, your support team is going to let the medical care team know that before any intervention is done, my client or my wife or my partner, needs to be able to give informed consent, which means you need to explain to us what this means. And I've shared on my Instagram page a model for getting that informed consent. So understanding the benefits, the risk, what are the alternatives, what if you do nothing, and then the opportunity to discuss and decide with your network of care. Then you want to talk about your postpartum experience. Do you want to do delayed cord clamping? Do you want to, and if so, for how long? Do you want to do immediate skin-to-skin contact for you, for your partner? What does that look like? Do you want to keep the baby's vernix on? And if so, for how long? What do you want to happen with your placenta? Do you want to keep your placenta? Do you want expected management of your placenta, which means that you're allowing the body to naturally evacuate the placenta? You can detail all of these things in your birth preferences and your birth plan. Now, you might be asking yourself, Shakira, is it really necessary to have a birth plan? No, it's not. Plenty of people have given birth without having a detailed or even high-level birth plan or vision. I will say, though, it is highly recommended, and here's why. Some of the statistics that we've seen around post-birth mortality and even mortality during the birthing process are not exactly correlated to not having a birth plan, but I think there are some correlations that we can derive. When you're able to develop a birth plan, you are, for yourself, creating a sense of autonomy for what's going to happen to you in the birthing experience. What often happens for people who don't have the opportunity to fully educate themselves and go through the process of developing a plan is that they're kind of at the mercy of their medical care providers. And so then you become a bit of a passive person in your birthing experience. And that's not what we want. This is your body. It's your baby. We want you to not feel empowered because you already have the power and nobody can empower you. But we want you to feel that autonomy. We want you to know that you have the confidence and the right to state exactly what you want in the experience. There's a theory called white coat syndrome, which is that when we see doctors who are incredible and the medical care community has its sets of racism and bias that it has to confront, when we're dealing with the medical care community, that white coat syndrome can kick in, and we think that what the doctor says is the be-all, end-all, and that's not necessarily true. So the birth plan allows you to articulate and work in partnership. You can work in partnership with your OBGYN, with your doula, with your midwife to think about what are the things that you need to include in your birth plan. You can co-create that with your romantic partner, with your mom, whoever in your community that you trust, your girlfriends, or the network of people that you really trust to think about what is the ideal birth experience. But ultimately, the final say should be up to you. And that birth plan ensures that you have the final say. Now, your birth plan, you can start to think about it as soon as you find out that you're pregnant. That's totally fine. You can start to think about it once you hit that halfway mark of your pregnancy, generally to make sure that you can experience a peaceful pregnancy. We recommend that you start around 30 weeks. Thinking about your birth plan. A lot of the information in there can be really overwhelming. It can take some time to put together. And so we want to make sure that you've gotten out of the first trimester, ease through, enjoy the ease of the second trimester. And as you're coming into your third trimester, now thinking about your labor and delivery experience. Another reason why we like to have you work through the birth plan is because it starts to demystify the process. As you go through your birth plan, now you're being cognitively aware of what's actually going to happen when you are laboring and when you start to deliver and postpartum. And so rather than going in with no sense of what's going to happen, you start to ease some of the fears and some of the mysticism behind the process, because now you're cognitively engaged with what you want to happen. Again, you can start your birth plan as soon as you'd like. We do recommend around the 30-week mark. And by we, I mean the general birth worker community. It varies depending on your doula or your birth worker, and also your midwife and caregiver. And so I'm going to just drop some tips on my Instagram page of some of the things that you can expect in a birth plan and how to sort of work through some of those questions, because there can be some things that, are really, I want to say challenging to work through. But with finding the right resources, having the right kinds of conversations, you can put together a beautiful birth plan. So, as always, make sure that you sign up for notifications on my Instagram page and also YouTube, where you can find me, The Dope Doula. Share this video with somebody who you think it might be useful for. Drop a comment down below if you have a question or just want to say this was great. And I will talk to you all again very soon.